What if I told you that a meme coin could shake up the future of politics and finance? The Trump coin, a cryptocurrency tied to one of the most controversial figures of our time. But is this the next Dogecoin or a financial disaster waiting to happen? Today, we'll break down everything you need to know, from the wild hype to the hidden risks. And trust me, you'll want to stick around for the shocking connection to the US economy and Bitcoin itself. Disclaimer: before we dive in, remember that cryptocurrency investments are highly volatile and risky. Nothing in this video constitutes financial advice. Always do your own research and consult a professional before investing in crypto or any other financial product. Let's dive in right now.
All right, so get ready for a wild one because you want to understand this whole Trump coin thing. What's the deal? How does it work? And why is everybody freaking out? Well, we've got YouTube videos, we've got news commentary, we've got it all to sort this out.
Yeah, it's definitely got people talking, that's for sure.
Yeah, so Trump coin and even a Melania coin launched right before the inauguration this year. And their value just exploded like billions overnight. But the catch is it's what they call a meme coin.
Right. No real economic purpose, just riding entirely on that Trump name.
Okay, so maybe back up for a sec. Can you explain what a meme coin even is? I get that it's tied to like a meme or whatever, but how does that turn into actual money?
Well, think about Dogecoin, the one with the Shiba Inu dog, you know. It blew up a few years ago because of people like Elon Musk hyping it up.
Right, yeah.
Meme coins get their value from online communities' trends, not because they actually do anything.
So like an inside joke that people are investing in?
Exactly. And that's what's happening with Trump coin. Value is all about brand recognition and that whole, Trump image.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. But how does it actually work? Like, what's the mechanics behind a meme coin like this?
Well, that gets us to tokenomics, which is basically the economics of a token. With Trump coin, you've got a total supply of 1 billion tokens, but only 20% of those 200 million were released at launch.
Wait, so where'd the other 80% go?
The creators and their affiliates are holding the rest, and they're going to release them slowly over 3 years.
So most of the coins are just like sitting there.
Exactly. And that's where it gets tricky. You see, having enough coins readily available for buying and selling is important for a coin's stability, like having enough product at the store. This gradual release is meant to control that flow.
But wouldn't releasing more coins later cause inflation? I mean, that's how regular economics works, right? If a country prints too much money, it becomes less valuable.
You're absolutely right. That's definitely a risk with Trump coin. As more tokens enter the market, the value of each one could go down.
So we're hearing stories of early investors getting rich off Trump coin. But is it possible the whole thing could crash if the creators flood the market with new coins?
It's a major concern, actually. One of the YouTube videos pointed out that Trump and his organization own 80% of all Trump coin. One analyst even said they might have sold $500 million worth at launch.
Whoa. So maybe those rags to riches stories we're hearing aren't the whole picture.
Exactly. While some people got in early and are celebrating, there's a lot of potential for the price to drop if those holding big amounts start selling.
That makes sense. So are we just waiting for the whole thing to crash, or is there a chance Trump coin could actually become, useful? Like, could you buy something with it?
Well, it's not impossible. The creators could announce some future use for the token. Access to events rewards for holding on to it, maybe a discount on Trump stakes, who knows?
Okay, but even if it gets some kind of use, wouldn't you say there are some ethical concerns here?
Absolutely. The news commentators are comparing it to things like blind trusts, which are designed to prevent conflicts of interest. Some are saying that Trump launching a meme coin that he profits from is a huge red flag.
Yeah, I can see why people would be worried about that. You know what's interesting about this, though? It might actually connect to something much bigger, the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Have you heard about that?
Of course. The idea of the U.S. government holding Bitcoin as a national asset just like gold. There was that proposed Bitcoin Act a few years ago suggesting we buy up to 1 million Bitcoin.
Right. And there's been talk that Trump might actually support something like that. So here's a thought. If he's willing to launch his own coin, maybe he'd be even more open to adding Bitcoin to the national reserves.
That's an interesting theory. And if that were to happen, the impact on Bitcoin's price would be massive.
I know, right? Some analysts are saying if the U.S. starts buying it, it could spark a global race. Other countries might follow, driving up demand. Some are even saying Bitcoin could hit $1 million.
It's definitely possible. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we should consider Trump's track record with these ventures.
Oh, right. From Trump Stakes to Trump University, there's a bit of a pattern there.
Some things worked out great, like his NFTs and campaign fundraising. Others, not so much, like Trump University with the lawsuits and settlements.
Yeah, not exactly his best moments. So the big question is, will Trump coin be another big win for him? Or will it follow that pattern of a splashy launch and then just, disappear quietly?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is, and one we'll have to keep exploring. But before we do, I want to pause here for a second and ask you, the listener, what stands out to you so far in this whole Trump coin thing?
Yeah, it's interesting to think about the bigger picture here. This isn't just about Trump coin. It's about politics and technology, all coming together with cryptocurrency.
It makes you wonder, could this be the future of campaign financing? Are we going to see more politicians launching their own coins?
It's definitely possible. I mean, we already saw how effective Trump's NFTs were for campaign donations. So this almost feels like the next step.
But what about the whole regulatory side of things? The government hasn't exactly been welcoming to crypto.
True. But with Trump back in office and his supposed support for things like the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, the whole regulatory scene could change quickly. Remember, executive orders can bypass Congress, so a pro-crypto president could really speed things up.
So are you saying that all this buzz around Trump coin plus a president who seems open to crypto could actually push the U.S. to become a more crypto-friendly country?
I think it's definitely within the realm of possibility. The U.S. has always been a leader in finance, and if they see an advantage in embracing crypto, they might jump on it pretty fast.
That's a pretty wild thought. But let's bring it back to Trump coin for a second. We talked about it potentially becoming more than just speculation, like actually having some real-world use. What could that look like? What would make this coin genuinely valuable?
Well, one of the YouTube videos had some interesting ideas. Imagine using Trump coin to get into a rally or access exclusive content.
Like a VIP pass to the Trump world.
Exactly. They could also do things like staking rewards where you earn more Trump coin just by holding on to it.
Okay, that actually sounds kind of tempting, but wouldn't that just encourage more of that hold and hope mentality that drives these meme coin bubbles?
It's a tough balance. They'd have to find a way to provide real utility without fueling too much speculation.
And let's be honest, there's a good chance they'll prioritize their own profits over what's good for regular investors.
That's a valid concern. Remember, the creators and their affiliates control most of the tokens. Their decisions will ultimately determine what happens to the coin.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate for a second. What if, against all odds, Trump coin actually becomes a legitimate player in the crypto world? What kind of impact could that have?
Well, it would definitely legitimize meme coins as a whole, which could be good and bad. On the one hand, it could bring more people into crypto, potentially leading to more innovation and wider adoption. More people investing means more resources for developing new ideas.
So more money flowing in could actually be good for the whole crypto world.
It could. But on the other hand, it could also lead to more reckless speculation, even bigger bubbles that eventually crash. People might jump in without really understanding the risks, just chasing the hype.
So it's a double-edged sword, higher highs, but also the potential for even lower lows.
Exactly. Something potential investors need to think about carefully. But beyond the money, there's also the question of what this whole thing says about our culture, about our politics and how we view money.
That's a really interesting point. What does it say about us that a presidential meme coin even exists?
I think it shows the growing power of internet culture and how the lines between entertainment and finance are blurring.
It's true. We're constantly bombarded with memes and viral trends, so a presidential meme coin almost feels like, well, normal.
Right. It also reflects our fascination with wealth and celebrity. There's this constant search for the next get-rich-quick scheme. And Trump coin, with its connection to a powerful figure and the promise of easy money, taps right into that.
But it also raises questions about trust and credibility in our financial systems.
Exactly. If people are willing to invest in a meme coin backed by someone as controversial as Trump, what's that say about their faith in traditional institutions?
It seems like people are looking for alternatives even if they're risky. But this all happens so fast. It feels like just yesterday we were all laughing at Dogecoin, and now the president has his own coin. How did we get here?
It's a combination of things. The rise of social media, the growing interest in crypto, distrust in the system. It's like all these trends came together to create this really unique moment.
Okay, let's try to sum up the key takeaways for our listeners. What's the most important thing to understand about this whole Trump coin phenomenon?
First and foremost, remember that this is a very risky investment. There are significant risks involved. So anyone thinking about investing should be extremely careful.
So don't bet the farm on Trump coin. What else?
It's also crucial to understand the tokenomics. The slow release of tokens, the concentrated ownership, the potential for inflation. These are all critical factors that could affect the coin's value in the future.
So do your research before you jump in and don't just follow the hype blindly. What would you say is the most important thing for our listeners to keep in mind as we move forward with this conversation?
I think it's important to remember that we might be seeing a fundamental change in finance and technology. The lines between traditional money and digital assets are becoming less clear, and the choices we make today could have big consequences down the road.
So we need to stay informed and pay attention to these developments. Speaking of staying informed, we've covered a lot of ground, but there's one piece of the puzzle we haven't fully explored yet: the connection between Trump coin and the strategic Bitcoin reserve.
That's right. Could this meme coin craze actually pave the way for Bitcoin to become a U.S. national asset? What would that mean for the future of finance? We'll dive into those questions and more right after this.
Okay, so we're back and ready to tackle the big question. Could this whole Trump coin thing actually be what pushes Bitcoin into those U.S. national reserves?
It's a wild idea, but it's not totally impossible. We are talking about a president who's not afraid to shake things up in the financial system.
Yeah, he definitely likes to, disrupt things, that's for sure. But here's what I don't get. If Trump was behind Trump coin, which is basically a meme coin with no real value, wouldn't that make him less likely to support something serious like Bitcoin?
Not necessarily.
Oh.
Politicians are often driven by what's practical, what benefits them.
Yeah.
If Trump sees an advantage in embracing Bitcoin, maybe it makes the dollar stronger, maybe it gets him more support from crypto fans, he might be willing to change his tune.
Okay, I can see that. So let's say he does decide to go all in on Bitcoin. What would that even look like?
Well, the most likely scenario is an executive order telling the Treasury to start buying Bitcoin and adding it to their reserves.
So like what that Senator, what was it, Loomis proposed with the Bitcoin Act?
Exactly. They could start by putting a small percentage of their holdings into Bitcoin and then gradually increase it over time.
And what kind of impact would that have on Bitcoin's price? We're talking about the U.S. government, the biggest economy in the world, potentially buying billions of dollars worth of crypto.
The impact would be enormous. It would basically be a signal to the entire world that Bitcoin is a legitimate asset, something governments should be holding.
So other countries might start buying Bitcoin too, like a global race to get in on it.
Exactly. And that kind of demand could send the price to levels we've never seen before.
Some people are even predicting $1 million Bitcoin if this happens.
Yeah, it's not out of the question. Bitcoin is scarce, and if you've got more and more big institutions buying it, well, the price could go through the roof.
Wow, that's pretty mind-blowing. But let's be real for a second. Are there any downsides to the U.S. holding Bitcoin as a national asset?
Of course there are. Every decision has risks. One concern is volatility. Bitcoin's price is known for going up and down like crazy. If the dollar is tied to Bitcoin too closely, it could create some instability.
Right. We don't want our currency to be at the mercy of, the crypto market's mood swings. What else?
Security is another big one. How would the government store and protect all that Bitcoin? There have been a lot of hacks and thefts in the crypto world.
Oh, man. Can you imagine the headlines? U.S. government loses billions in Bitcoin hack?
Yeah, that would be a disaster.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are definitely challenges. But the potential benefits of embracing Bitcoin, especially if other countries are doing it, might outweigh those risks.
So what does all of this mean for, the average person? Should we be running out to buy Bitcoin right now?
I wouldn't recommend making any rash decisions.
Yeah.
Investing in crypto always comes with risk. It's important to do your research, understand the technology, and never invest more than you can afford to lose.
That's good advice, but it's hard not to get caught up in the hype, especially with all this talk of $1 million Bitcoin.
I get it. It's an exciting time to be following crypto, but it's important to stay grounded and think critically.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. We're witnessing a massive shift in finance and technology. The line between traditional and digital currencies is getting blurrier by the day. And the choices we make right now will have a huge impact for years to come.
So buckle up, stay informed, and maybe even brush up on your Bitcoin knowledge. You never know what the future holds.
That's right. The future of finance is being written as we speak, and it's going to be a wild ride.
And that's it for our deep dive into the world of Trump coin and its potential impact on everything from, meme culture to the future of Bitcoin itself. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a topic you want to understand better. Until then, keep those brains curious and don't be afraid to dive deep.